Awesome sauce, guys. Well, welcome to Enriching Evenings. This is the first enriching evening, so be prepared to be enriched. I am Melanie Canatella. I am the owner of Fluff and Feathers, all animal training. I do a lot of behavior work with parrot clients, and because of that, I have this big question and this big need for my clients to do enrichment and my clients to have about enrichment and how to enrich their animals' lives and when to find time to do it and what examples and how to. And I get all sorts of questions, and pretty much every behavior plan that I've ever made, I've talked about enrichment and increasing it. I don't think our animals can get enough of it. So I wanted to start enriching evenings to be able to supply some of that information to you guys, as well as really create a really strong community around enrichment. People who like enrichment and they have like-minded feelings about it, and so on and so forth. So I decided to call it Enriching Evenings. It's going to be a different evening every single week. So that way, if you're not available in these days or, kids have, after school activities, though currently of recording, we're in summer. So hopefully that has dissipated for the parents that are beyond animal parents. So I thought every single day of the week, different day, always at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll have a different topic every single week. We'll have different challenges and giveaways and contests and stuff like that to really keep things interesting and engaging, and also to motivate you guys to continue to work on your enrichment skills. But because we're starting this first one off, I wanted to kind of just keep it to the base, to the build that foundation. So we all have the same common language, and we all have a very similar skill set that we can build upon as the weeks get even more exciting. So this week is just about an intro to foraging, as in what is it for you guys, an intro into enrichment as well. What is it for you guys, but also how to teach your bird and how to introduce it to your bird. So my desk is swamped. I have to remember for next week and following weeks thereafter, I need a folding table over here because it's chaotic around me. So let's go ahead and get started. And you might have to bear with me as I try to find things and do things, right? And if you're watching this and you get inspired or you want to tag along, go ahead and use this time of listening to this as a way to work on your own bird's enrichment. All you have to do is kind of listen to me. I talk a lot. And when I have something that I think you all should definitely pay attention to. I'd be like, and look over here and look at this and watch this. So then you guys have some auditory cues in order to transition your behavior and your attention to me if you are just listening to this doing other tasks. So I want to start with, first off, what is enrichment? Enrichment is kind of the big word that everything that we're going to talk about in Enriching Evenings falls under, hence its name. I could have just called it like Foraging Fridays or every other F word phrase that everyone has done for foraging now. But I chose Enriching Evenings because that's really what we're after, is more enrichment than foraging. Foraging is a part of enrichment and a really easy way to provide enrichment, but it's not the only way. So I wanted to keep it broad so we can really explore a lot of topics. So first off, what is enrichment? Now there's tons of different definitions out there that all say something a little different, but essentially what I like to tell people what enrichment is, and this is taken from a few different definitions from a few different places, is adding items and stimuli to the animal's environment that will increase behavioral choices and species-specific behaviors by arousing their senses and creating independence. And with my birds who are screamers, I don't know if you can hear Alfie cockatoo. I just put them to bed and it's 30 minutes early because of how this call kind of ends. They go to bed at 7:30. So he is being a nut job right now. But if you have a screaming bird like him, enrichment. If you have a clingy bird that won't leave you alone ever, enrichment. If you have a bird that practices feather destructive behaviors, there may be an underlying cause of that, but enrichment. If you have a bird that's not confident, that's very shy, enrichment, enrich their lives. And what we're going to be talking about today is the beginning parts of foraging, which is a type of enrichment. It's species-specific behaviors where the bird will work for their food and treats, even sometimes using tools, because our parrots are fascinating creatures, to increase mental stimulation, increase engagement, physical exercise, and to have more time of their day accounted for, which is something that I run into a lot with my clients is their birds are understimulated, and so they're finding their own stimulation. And how I like to describe this to people is imagine that you work in a cubicle and you're given a desk and a chair and your lunch and you're told to sit there for 8 hours and you have nothing to do. So what are you going to do? You're going to start like tapping your foot, you're going to start humming or singing, twirling your fingers, start playing with your hair. You're going to start doing something to pass the time. And time is just going by at a snail's pace. I mean, it could not be more excruciating. That is your bird's life inside of its cage while you are at work. And it's not because it's in its cage, because if you don't believe in cages, that's your bird outside the cage as well. Well, all four walls in a cage, in a house, in a cage. So I like to give my birds, in this instance, a computer and a task. I like to tell them to go do this spreadsheet. And I said spreadsheet because it's up on my other computer. And although for us, spreadsheets, hate them. But man, is that better than just sitting there doing nothing? And time goes by so fast. So when you're given a task and you're given something to do and the tools in order to complete it, then time goes by much faster and you have less time accounted for that you have to figure out what you're going to do. And that's what we want to do with enrichment. And that's what we can very easily do with foraging. Your bird needs it. It's a necessity. I know we usually think necessities is like food, water, shelter, pet care, but enrichment is a necessity in our animals' lives. It's a necessity in our lives as well. And we really need to not make it so it's the first thing we cut out when we're busy. And I'm so guilty of that. That's just not like I'm better than you, because that is a part of why I wanted to start enriching evenings is because I do get really busy and I have systems in place that I'm so excited to share with you guys to help me always have time to create something. It may not be the most lavish of enrichment ideas, but it is something. But I did notice the past, well, God, when I first came up with this was a little while ago, but the 2 weeks prior of coming up with the original Enriching Evenings idea, the birds barely got enrichment. And what I noticed really aggravated me, right? So, like Alfie, he is very auditory enrichment based. He loves when things make noises and how to make things make noises. Typical for him. He's my Moluccan cockatoo if you don't know my flock. And so he was taking on his stainless steel cage, I got it in January, brand new, and he's taking the bars and he's clang, clang, clang. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, he could break those bars and then I'm gonna lose it. Not on him, but internally. I'm gonna have to walk outside for a little bit. It's an expensive cage. And all he was bored. And Merlin, my blue and gold, started bringing things to the bottom of his aviary onto the floor and putting it into a corner, showcasing likely nesting type behaviors. And Rango, my orange wing Amazon, is screaming a lot. And I'm like, oh my God, I already have a cockatoo. I don't need this. Um, I noticed that Munchkin was my double yellow-headed Amazon was much more easily heightened. And for Amazons, that can become trouble real quick. And so I felt like I was walking on eggshells around him at times. And they were getting out of their cages, but when they were getting out of their cages on their big tree systems, there still wasn't nothing to do except for sit there. They had toys, but like those toys are always there. There was nothing really adding new. There was only like the small, like I'd give them maybe like a small little enrichment item per day. And so that was maybe 5 minutes of their time accounted for. And so they were finding other ways and they're getting frustrated. And in turn, that got me frustrated. And I was like, we need to do something. And when I came up with this, I was like, this is a way I need to create content. I need to share my ideas. And how easy would it be to get the content for all of these weeks if I just did them during the week and provided them for my birds? So, long story short, that is a part of, I mean, I'm guilty of it. When I'm busy, enrichment is the first thing that I think of to go because food, water, shelter, vet care is much more important than enrichment, but enrichment is still equally as important. And so, even I'm still trying to get that in my head. Everyone still needs to get that in their head. So, where we need to start, first and foremost, is with your bird's diet. There's just two simple things that I ask for. I am not a nutritionist by any means. I don't claim to be. I know a few things, I know some stuff, but I always try to stay in my lane. I give suggestions, I give some feedback, and I let my clients continue down their path as deep as they want to get into it. And if you guys need a parrot nutritionist, just let me know. I'll send you over her information. But I ask for two simple things when you're going to start enrichment, especially if your bird is not one that does foraging. Maybe you've tried in the past and it hasn't worked out, so on and so forth. The first two things, and the only two things I'll talk about here, is make sure that all nuts, seeds, fruits, treats, everything is out of their bowl. They get pellets and they get vegetables. That's it. Everything else is withheld because we need to use that to our advantage in order to train and entice the birds over to go searching for their food initially. We can phase those out, but we want to withhold them and we also want to use them for maybe some training. But this isn't what training Tuesday or training Thursday or whatever that series could be. This is enriching evenings. So we're gonna stick with just enrichment here. Although enrichment is behaviorally modifying. So we want to take out all the goodies, all the bird's favorite things, and we want to withhold them. It's a type of food management where we're trying to take it away so it increases the value of that food item to the animal because let me tell you what. I like this little dessert. It's like a little chocolate parfait. So good. And I purposely, very hard, do not eat this chocolate parfait unless I earn it. So if I had a really, really hard week, girl's getting some chocolate parfait. But girl is not getting chocolate parfait if she did have like a normal week. We're gonna have a different dessert item, and it's gonna be chocolate related. So I want you guys to first off make that switch. They're still going to get those key nutrients and part of their nutrition just in a different way. And the next thing is I want to be sure that you're not overfeeding your bird because if you are, then chances are your bird is going to have decreased motivation in order to want to work for their food initially. There is a really, really cool I don't even know what it's technically called. There's a really cool thing, and I hate using thing. There's a really cool thing. I forget exactly what it is, but it is something called contra freeloading. And contra freeloading is when the animal prefers to work for their food, even when the same food item is readily available, like in a bowl. It is documented. It's not 100% well understood why, but it is a thing that exists. So your bird will, once when they're into foraging, prefer to work for their pellets with pellets in the bowl. But initially, that might not be the case, especially if they're a little bit afraid or they don't quite understand the assignment. We can run into some things. So definitely consult a nutritionist or your vet about the exact amount to feed your bird of food per day and figure out those rations. Generally speaking, in the most broad of terms, birds should eat anywhere from 10 to 15% of their body weight in all food per day. So I like to weigh once and then wing it from there, eyeball it, because girl has too many animals to be measuring things. I only measure tugboat's food. The rest is eyeballing. So Definitely consult with your avian veterinarian or a nutritionist in order to be sure that you are feeding the right amount, especially if you're finding that there are challenges with your bird getting started with foraging, even after implementing some of these ideas. So first I want to get into, with idea-wise, how to get started. And there's a few ideas I want to bring to the table, to the desk, the crowded desk. The first one, and this is the one that I use, I think the most frequent, if I'm going to be honest, because it's free. I like to use coin wrappers. I've talked about this in every single enrichment class with every single client we talk about foraging. I talk about this all the time. I've posted about it online. I know I have. And so how I start is I give the bird a coin wrapper, just like this. This, here you go. And they'll like play with it. They might shred it, but they usually just drop it, and you're like cozy. And then I'll open it. I'll show them. I'll be like, "Ooh, it opens. See, ooh, here you go." And then they go and they do their thing. And then I'll go and I'll twist one end, and right in front of their faces, I'm just gonna use a pellet real quick so you can see it. I do that with their most favoriteest treat. And even if that's like a Nutriberry, just use the quarter ones. And I go to the bank and I get them for free. I say I have a lot of coins and I like some of these bad boys. And they give you a good sample. Once when the bird is able to get the food out of here, then I'll put the food in front of them and close it one more time. And then hand it. Look at this little candy wrapper. Ain't that cute? And so now what they have to do is they know there's food in here because every single time we've handed them one since the first introduction, there's been food in there. And it's a very thin paper that even budgies can chew through. So they're like, okay, I can get it. And so what we are doing is we're starting to build a conditioned item where the animal knows there's always food in here. It's a visual cue that if I go over there and I chew it, food's inside of it. And so we can build upon that, or we can just start here. We'll get into it. The next place that I like to start that ain't a coin wrapper, like for smaller birds or birds that like paper, you're gonna hear a rip. It's probably gonna sound terrible. So sorry, I should have done that beforehand. I like to take a simple piece of paper, any size. It doesn't even have to be this brown paper. It can be whatever paper that you have. And I'll just hand the bird the piece of paper. Same thing. But this time what I do is I'll take the piece of food item and I'll go like this, and I let the bird eat the food item off the paper, flat. If your bird is not into that, maybe you can line a bowl with it. You can just kind of stick it in and line the bowl. And if you fold it right, all nice and neat, then it holds the bowl shape. There's food in here. That's why I didn't want to tip it. But what I'll do is have them eat it out of there. And then once when they're doing that, you put the food item in and you give it just a single fold. And so now it kind of comes up into itself. You'll see it pop up. It's okay. Because the next time we can do another fold and we can do another fold. And we can increase the complexity of this one foraging idea by the amount of folds that we do. And then maybe we take a zip tie or a piece of natural rope if that's more your fancy. And we get it into a really, really, really tight ball, and then we wrap it. So now what do we have to do? We have to maybe pull it. We have to maybe chew the cordage of whatever kind you use. And then we still got to peel it open and peel it open and chew it open, and then there's our treat. So that's one way that we can use that. And this can be used the same way as the coin wrapper, alone, or we can build upon it with other stuff that we're going to get into. Another way of getting birds started is just straight crinkle paper in their food bowl. It could be that easy. And I'm telling you what, Maui and Rosie, my two conures, that's where we needed to start because I tried the other two options and they said no. So I just put some crinkle paper over their food. I started with just a little bit, just a few pieces, and the next time a few more and a few more, and I just kept building it up. And then I'd swap out the objects. So we did crinkle paper, and once when they were rifling through that real good, then we switched to little skinny twigs that I got off of getting natural purchase and stuff. And then maybe we put like some lettuce over it, if your bird is into fresh foods and stuff like that. And build upon it so then they're like, oh wait, food, where's food? And get that into their mind. Then you can introduce like the coin wrappers or the seed balls with paper and stuff like that. And start to build it from there. Because the ultimate goal is to increase the complexity over time and forever increase the complexity, which for some animals like Alfred Cockatoo, who is so smart, it's very hard to continue to think of complexities within your abilities. So the next good starting point, but also increasing complexity are these things. These are oval plastic gears. I sell them on my website and I plug them any chance I can get. I always talk about these oval plastic gears. I like these gears, if you know the gears. These are my favorite gears out of every single gear I've tried, and I feel like I've tried them all. I genuinely feel that deep in my heart. And I like these a lot because they hold every single size pellet, majority of treats. Of course, like a NutriBerry, you're gonna have to cut in half or something, but it'll hold that. It holds millet, it holds small seeds, it holds everything. And look how easy this is. I'm using a single finger. It's getting hard to grab stuff. This bowl, it has safflower seeds in it as well because I couldn't find another bowl quick enough. But within 30 seconds or less, I have a gear set up with pellets that I can throw in their bowl with their other pellets as an introductory start. Now, if your bird is like definitely afraid of this, probably wouldn't do that because you would need to desensitize it. And if you have questions about desensitization, I have an online class about it that is an hour and a half of me talking about just desensitizing things and the training process. Um, but I would probably desensitize it first, kind of work on it together before putting in the food bowl. But if your bird had a toy bucket or was comfortable with this, now that took me 30 seconds and it's going to take your bird a couple of minutes because they're going to bite off a little piece. They're going to drop this somewhere and they're going to consume that little piece. Some birds like to soak their piece and then consume it. And then they're going to have to go back for this. This won't fit through the grates of the cage. It stays on top. Sometimes this one doesn't have it because it has been chewed off. But usually they have a little raised piece. It's very small that kind of goes in, and that's what really catches it in the grate. If it went like this, I'm sure with a 1 inch bar space, it could fall through, but the most of the time it doesn't. Um, and your bird will have to go back down and grab it, go back up. These can be sanitized. I don't know if they're technically dishwasher safe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm telling you what, I put mine in the dishwasher and nothing happens. So I do that. I also soak them in F10, which I am also a distributor for if anyone's curious about that. It's a veterinary cleaner that is 100% safe for parrots. And you can even spray it on their toys, and once when it dries, it's 100% safe. Um, so I like these, and I'll put them in their food bowls. We can build complexities onto this as well. So now we have our gear with our pellets. And you can put seeds in between here. See how the holes are much smaller? You can put even, let me just show you. I have a whole thing of them right here. Safflower seeds, the little tiny white seeds that will come in foods that maybe aren't the highest of quality, or treat mixes. You see it in there? That holds it already. You don't even need anything else. But if I go like this, it's locked and loaded, baby. They ain't going nowhere. These will hold nuts, sunflower seeds, stuff like that. But increasing the complexity, the bird knows there's food in here. Instead of a coin wrapper, we'll put the gear in here. But I'm only going to do that again if the bird is comfortable taking food out of the gear. If we start messing with this conditioned response and it becomes unreliable, that there isn't food in there, it doesn't matter if it's a bird's desired food item. Like if you have been using nuts and you slowly transition to using pellets in there, there's still food in there. And it was transitioned effectively, no problem. But if we just put balls of paper in their cage without food in it after we've trained this, then they're going to be like, I don't know if there's food in there. I don't care. So we need to keep it consistent. We don't want to scare them. We don't want to like, because they were scared of this, we're going to put it in the brown paper that they've known to love and adore, and then have to have behavioral regression we have to work through, potential, should say. But I like to do that. And then what else would I do? I'm gonna have another layer of paper and maybe a zip tie. I'm a zip tie girly. If you're a natural cord girly, man, person, that's on you. I like zip ties. I think they're very easy. And if you use a screwdriver to a flat-headed one to take them off, you can reuse them. Even the like non-reusable ones, you just need a screwdriver, the flathead. So I'll do that. I will also use, these are the interlocking snowflakes on my website. These are much skinnier. These are not going to hold pellets. These are not going to hold seeds. You can hold millet in the middle depending on what you have strung up for it. So stainless steel skewers that I sell that are amazing, dishwasher safe, all those wonderful things. Reusable. Don't look, this, I got this cheap flavored spray millet, artificially berry flavor, which is ridiculous because birds aren't that, don't have taste buds like us. Really stupid. They already love millet. I got this from, I think Petco 6 years ago, and I literally only use it for content. It has never been fed to a single animal. It is beyond its point, but I literally keep it because I use it for content all the time. So if you have the stainless steel skewer, look how much room there is. You can easily stick a sprig of millet in there. Please don't make it this long. I just don't want to cut it. But I would probably cut it right here so there's not as much weight, and this would hold it. Here, let me do this right. I'm just gonna get millet a little bit of everywhere. Imagine that at the bottom. It will hold. It's just there's too much weight. So if you cut it, this will hold. Ah, there's millet everywhere. Millet everywhere. But what I would do with the interlocking snowflake is for nuts. And what I like to do, let me grab my nuts again. Everything's a little disheveled up here. These are much more relaxed events than my usual webinars. So what I do is, here's a little piece of walnut. I just had a bird spending the night, an Indian ringneck named Mingo from a Helping Wing Bird Rescue, and his adopters picked him up today. They lived really close to me, and the rescue is not close to me. So he was a big walnut person, walnut bird to get medicine off of, so I walnuts. What I'll do with a big nut is I just shove it in the slats and then it breaks off. And what we have here is all these little crumbs. And I promise you, your hyacinth macaw, your blue and golds, your Moluccan cockatoo, umbrella cockatoo, your conure, your parakeets can do this. They can take all those little tiny pieces of nut out of there, and I barely use any of this nut in there. And we can just continue to go around, but then just drop that piece and just shove. Just, hiya. Sorry, you can't even see what I'm doing. Hiya. I just mash it in. Yes, thank you, Ramona. Clean up. My dog is cleaning up underneath me. So now we have, look how pretty that is. But this is complex because we were going from this, big slats, big food items. Here's your increased complexity. And although this can only work with quote unquote treat items, it's powerful because we're using such a small amount. And it's going to take quite a long time because they can only use the very, very tip of their upper mandible, the hook, hence hook-bill parrots, to go into each individual slat to grab the food at. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slats per ball and 2, 4, 6 balls. My math is right. That's 36 times. This bird has to go in with his beak and chew, and then go and chew. 36 times. That's going to take time. And that's going to help us because we want it to take time. I'm just making sure Ramona wasn't chewing anything. It's the rats chewing things. They have awoken. So I like to use them, and I'll put them in their food bowl or a toy bucket or anything like that. But I'll also just use different bowls or buckets as foraging in itself, another great starting point. So I got these off of a company that is no longer in business, but I'm gonna work real hard to try to find these online and link them in the follow-up email or in the show notes below. Depending on where you're watching this and when you're watching this, and if you're a part of our newsletter. I'll try to find a link to these. I love these. I don't love how easy it is. I think it's said this. Okay, how easy it is to take this off because my birds have also figured that out, and then they go flying. But also they chew them. But the good thing is, guess what fits right there? A zip tie. Actually, I really wonder. It probably doesn't. I think this is too thick. Let me check real quick. Oh crap! It actually might. Nope, it's too thick. I knew it. I was gonna see if my plastic links that I sell on my website fit through there because that would not only be good for you, but like life altering for me. Because my birds also will chew off zip ties. Mainly Merlin will snap them really quick, but he won't with the plastic links. Don't ask. But what I'll do is I'll have either the stainless steel screw-on bowls that you can buy separately. You can just like have the hardware and attach and it's like fancy. I use these. And I will put them all around the cage. And I'll start easy with bowls right next to perches, make it all nice and easy. And then once when they're getting that and they're realizing that they're getting the same amount of food, but they have to move around their cage or around their play stand or whatever in order to get it, then I'll start making it harder by putting those screw-on bowls not near a perch. They have to hang on the side of the cage and then hop onto the screw bowl and do it. If you wanted to increase the complexity even more, I'd go to these. Now, if you had a little bird, if you had like conure and below size, they're probably still going to perch on the side of this. My guys don't, but I could see it happening. But with the bigger guys, now they can't. And now they have to hang on the side of the cage, which increases physical activity, strength, coordination, all those beautiful things, balance. And they have to dig in through here. And if you have a little guy, you can, and it's deep and you're afraid or whatever, fill it up with crinkle paper. Or you can fill it up with, just cut out some cardboard shapes and fill it up that way, as long as fresh food isn't going in there. So that way it kind of raises it a bit. Or again, I'm sure there's tons of options. And even if you didn't have an option with a hole to hang it, if you had a drill or a screwdriver and real deep passion, I'm sure you could get a hole into it in order to be able to hang it up. I'm really gonna find the link for these. They're so generic. They were made in China. Like, oh, Oriental Trading Company. That makes my life so easy. Absolutely. I'm finding this link. I got you guys. I thought it'd be something like that. But anyway, I just put the food in here and then they move around the cage. And then I'll take this and I'll hang it from like the ceiling of their cage. And I'll start at the side so they still have a place to hang out. But then I'll start putting it like in the center of the cage on the roof. So then I have to hang upside down and get the food out of there. Adding the complexity. But then I'll do this. And now, not only do they have to mosey their way on up and grab this, they have to mosey their way back down to a perch because that's what most birds do. Unless you're Jojo, my yellow nape Amazon, he will hang by one foot and hold the enrichment item in the other foot and do it. So they have to move up, grab it, move all the way down, and then interact with it, increasing complexity, making it last longer. So I just love it. Oh, Jesus. Millet everywhere. So another thing that I you what will usually do is look into other toy parts as to where I can hide things. And I might not have brought that by accident. I always forget something. So if you're not a fan of plastic, I get it. I've never had an issue. I've never personally, out of all my clients, heard of an issue. I've seen them online, but also I've seen a lot of the same stories shared a lot. So I don't know how prevalent it is. I know I've spoken to a lot of vets and they said they've never had to retrieve plastic from a bird. Cotton rope and stuff sometimes, but not like it makes it seem online. So with any new enrichment item, I always monitor my birds when I first give it to them to see how they're interacting with it and if they're being safe or not. But if you want to completely stay away from plastics, that is fine. You don't have to. There's natural items as well. So again, wish I brought them. I'm debating internally if it's worth me telling you guys 1 second and go and grabbing them from the next room over. But I like to use finger traps as a really good starting point or any other woven material. Oh, I know what I can do. Oh my God. Hold on. I have the ideas. I have all the ideas. Give me 1 second. I like to use woven items because it offers a lot of variety and ways to increase complexity quite easily. So here we go here. I'm going to we use technology to our advantage here. Welcome, guys. These are my notes for tonight, if you guys were curious. So I like to go, this is my website. Welcome, fluffandfeathers.com. Woven materials at the bottom. Here we go. Lovely. So finger traps are in the room with us now. So what I like to do is you see all these woven parts, all these little holes right here and here and here. They hold pellets lovely. Seeds lovely, especially sunflower seeds and pumpkin or pepita seeds. Hold them lovely. And even this purple, how it goes over the white, that is another easy place to stuff things. And if you're using a screwdriver with it, now I really wish I brought them. If you had a screwdriver with you, I like to use them to poke holes into a lot of my fragile toy parts when I'm making toys for sale. And what I do is I will kind of use the screwdriver to lift it up if I'm using a nut item and it's not working in my favor, or I just make a hole. It's usually in between these woven parts. I'll just put the screwdriver through, and when I put it through, I do like a circle little wiggle to kind of widen it a little bit, and then I'll shove it in. But what you can do with them as well is utilize the holes. And so the deeper you put it within the finger trap, the more it increases the complexity of the foraging assignment. And then what you can do, you can stuff the end of this with like crinkle paper or something, or just regular paper. and you can have the bird have to pull it and then go grab the treat. So that's something that can be really helpful if you like something natural. The loofahs, they have all these different winding textures you can shove stuff in, or these big parts if you have millet or if you have an in-shell nut you're working with, they hold it beautifully. You can poke a hole in the center. Again, I just take a screwdriver, I poke a hole and I do a little circle, or I'll take scissors when they're shut and just punch it through, and that makes a really big hole. It can be really helpful as a good starting place because, again, they can really see it. The other natural item are the palm daisies. I love these. Love, love, love. Another woven material that you can easily stick cordage through the center and hang it, but also in toy buckets and stuff like that. And just like with the coin wrapper, you got all these slits, not only in the center here and the center point as well, but you also have some of these on the tip. And to make it harder, if you put this like face up in their food bowl, again, if they're comfortable with it, to increase the complexity, you have the entire back. And the most complex part that I have found with my guys is right in the underside of these folds right here. That's, whew, my guys, I'm telling you what, if they're going to miss a treat on a palm daisy, it's going to be under there. So that's something that can really work on your favorite. The vine cones, I got them back in stock. I need to change this when I update the website with the the rest of the dates of this year and their topics and stuff. When I'm on the website tomorrow, I'm going to update that because I got more in. I love these. I'll show you. I love these because you can start with especially nuts and like bigger seeds right on here in all of these little slats. These are perfect for like the pine nuts. Up here is perfect for the safflower seed. It's the safflower seed in this little thing here. But then we can get into bigger nuts with the bigger slats that are further out this way. Or if you have a big item, a nutriberry, a whole nut in the shell or something, shove it on in the center. So that way the bird can see it, but they have to figure out, how do I get it? And it's easy. It's very easy. Before I exit out of my website, because I'm very much, oh, see, another one, the raffia tassels. These are perfect because all of this frilly little bit holds food items beautifully. Love them. If you need crinkle paper, I also have it. These are just some of the toy parts that I sell. I'm updating more. We're gonna get into some of these more. Here's the plastic oval gears and the interlocking snowflakes. So unexpected. But there's my screen, and you can look at my browser at what I have pinned up at the top. I've had clients ask me about a few things up there that they were curious through client calls, so it's okay, be a little nosy. I'm gonna pull up my notes back up here just so I stay on track. So you can also use other natural items that you can find around, depending on your region. But if it's not exactly this idea, there are other natural parts and materials in your area that you can find, which makes it very cost effective. I'm going to be specifically talking about pine cones right now, but there are so many that are safe. And all I do to disinfect this and clean these, I just bake the pine cones at 200 degrees for 30 minutes or something like that. With pine cones, all I'm looking for is all the sap to fall off. Because that is what is harmful to birds is the sap. Um, but with other items, it would just be for microorganisms, molds, stuff, bugs, stuff like that. So if this is something that you're comfortable with, awesome. People do sell these. I don't sell them yet because I have my own little hoard and I like my hoard. So maybe one day when I get more of a hoard, then I can give them out to you guys. But a lot of other websites will sell them. I will link some. I'll find some that are like parrot specific websites that I feel comfortable in and that I've bought from in the past for pine cones if you don't want to source them yourself. Um, what was the other one? I have these seed balls, maybe a magnolia tree. I want to look this up while I'm chit-chatting with you guys. Um, oh, tree spots. What are you? Yes, magnolia seed pods. That's what they are. I knew it. I love those. Oh my God. Oh my God. You can get your hands on those. Those are my favorite. They hold nuts like it's no one's business. Oh, and my birds love them. And they're easy to drill holes into as well to hang up for cordage. Magnolia seed pods, don't sleep on them. I don't think I'll ever sell them because any one that I get, I hoard. They're for my birds. We use them. But anyway, what I like to do with pine cones, not only just give them to my birds, but if I was to use these for foraging, you can use, I'm running out of pellets here. You can use like pellets and just shove it in, and it generally holds pretty well. But if you are using smaller seed items, especially for the smaller birds, or you really want to be sure that it does hold, I'll mix equal parts water and flour, just white all-purpose flour, nothing fancy. And I like my paste a little bit thicker so I can be a bit more precise with it. And I will take like a knife or a spoon or just dunk it however chaotic I'm feeling or whatever the purpose of it is. So if I'm starting with a beginner, I'm going to want that solution, that mixture to be more on the outside because wherever the mixture is, when it dries, whatever's on top of it, it stays there. It like helps it stick. So for a beginner bird, I want it more on the outside. For a more intermediate and expert bird, I want it specifically deep in there. And I don't want any of that solution to be on the outside because when I go and put that food item on there, it's going to get stuck on the outside and it's going to be way too easy for the bird. So depending on what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, the time, the amount of time I have. And once when it is dry, it's good. It dries fairly quickly. It all depends on your parameters of how it dries. Um, but I really love that idea. And then I'll put it in their bowl in a bucket. For my guys, sometimes even at the bottom of the aviary for them to find because you'd think if they were in the wild and encountering these in the wild, but anyway, they're a wild bird. Some food items are going to fall and they will have to go down and do some ground foraging. So that's what I want to emulate, not just the foraging, but also the enriching part of using ground foraging, especially for species who are more prone to ground foraging. Bam! So, like these things. I'm gonna put that over there. Um, get creative as to the beginning phases of foraging, but increasing the complexity and generalizing the behavior and getting it more fluid by finding different objects that are still pretty easy. So I'm listening a lot, and I encourage you to try as many as you can, if not all of them, because it will just continue to add to your bird's skills. So, for example, I have these hard plastic pink booties that were from my niece's, or my sister, I guess, her um, baby shower. It was like some type of shower. I kept thinking bridal shower, but we ain't there yet. From her baby shower a while ago, with my niece Sophie, and these were just decorations. I don't remember their purpose. But there was extra, and I was like, oh my God, can I take these home? And so I brought them home. I sanitized them using some F10, and they have a hole under here, and they have a hole up here. And it just so happens that the gods were on my side because this hole holds a nutriberry so perfectly. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more perfect hold. It's beautiful. And I still have under here as well to put another nutriberry. If you put it under here, you have to crush it. But this is something that is safe for my parrot to play with if you're into plastics. I feel like safe for my flock to play with. Because it was sanitized. It's a hard plastic. It's not going to be any different than this plastic because this is a kid's toy and this is a kid's thing. So I felt okay with it. And it was something different, but did the same thing. And for Maui and Rosie, my tough foragers, this shoe was the first thing I saw them forage out of, except for like crinkle paper and little sticks and stuff over their food bowl. This was the first thing that they used, was these stupid little shoes. And if I didn't think about using these stupid little shoes because they had a little area to hold something in, I wouldn't have gotten it. So another thing that I saw on my website that might be very helpful is to get millet kind of hanging in a different way. And it's the wheels that I have on my website. I'll tell you the exact name. But again, it'll all be linked after this. You guys get an email or it'll be in the notes below. The large plastic wheels, that's what I thought they were called. I used to get a different design that was like the flower wheels, and I always mixed them up. But the large plastic wheels, these are great. These hold millet very well. Not only just the actual stem of the millet right in between here, but also can hold it through here, and you could put little balls of it, like the little, take off a little ball and put it in between all these little slats. I don't want to get millet everywhere because doing that first example, I forgot how much millet gets everywhere. So for the future, we're going to have to figure out, that's going to be in the notes. Figure out cleaning solution for millet, for examples, because I brought it to show. And if you had it on the stainless steel skewer, then now it's hanging and it swings and it rotates and it can increase complexity. Now, initially, you can just put it in the bowl, or you can even take a plastic link and you can put it on the side here into one of these and hang it up right on the side of the bars like this. And now we have a little swingy dingy adding to it, adding to the complexity. And then we're going to move over to the full range and the full swing of the stainless steel skewer. And utilizing the stainless steel skewer in that way will set us up really nicely for next week, where we're going to be transitioning our birds, not just from these small, easy activities, but we're going to be transitioning them from that and implementing it into toys. So they start to use parrot toys more. That's next week. It'll just be about increasing complexity and getting birds to interact with toys. We'll talk about that more just in a little bit. I have two more examples. The next one's pretty self-explanatory. This is a acrylic cup. Sell it on my website. Shameless plug. And again, holds everything. The bird can see it. This can just be placed in the bowl. This can hold this. This can hold the seed balls, the coin wrappers. It can hold it all. And you can also put it on the skewer. And then you can place them throughout the cage. And maybe you can put a lid on it, right? And that's my bottoms up toy, is exactly that. And I did that because it's an easy start to foraging. The animal sees that the food is in there, they want the food, so they sit here and they work on how to figure it out. But it starts with this, and building complexities, putting the lid on. The last thing that I want to briefly talk about are baffle cages, which we're going to probably be talking about quite a bit next week. These are cages for your cage. I don't know who is listening or if they remember if this was a core memory of your childhood like it was with mine. I used to play Neopets all the time. And on Neopets, you had your Neopet, and then your Neopet had a pet, so it was your pet. And then your pet needed a pet, so it was the pet. And I think about that every single time I think about a baffle cage, because this is the cage's cage. This is a cage. And what I'll do is I'll put paper in it. I'll put the coin wrappers. I really like putting those seed balls, just food inside the crinkle paper, and kind of crush it up and put it in here as a really easy foraging way. And for a bird who is just starting out, especially if they're a bigger bird, you can put whole nuts and shell in here. And depending on the nut, they can't get it out unless they chew and break it and pull it out little by little. If it was an almond, depending on the size, it could get out of here. But a lot of nuts and shell, they can't. So they have to work a little bit harder. And it hangs and it swings and it does all these crazy things. I'll link some baffle cages. I don't have any in stock right now. They make them in big and small. That's like the biggest size you can get that I found. And they make them in they make them in powder coated. They probably make them in galvanized. I wouldn't recommend it, but they make them in powder coated and they also make them in stainless steel. I've only ever had the powder coated ones and they get used quite often and sanitized a lot. And they used to get sanitized and bleached and then rinsed way back in their heyday. And they're still in fairly good condition. So I really like those, and we'll talk a lot about baffle cage ideas. I could literally dedicate an entire enriching evenings just to baffle cage ideas because there's so many really fun ones out there. So I want to end that here as first week of enriching evenings. We have a starting point, right? We have a place we can build upon for the weeks going forward. We have a good common language of understanding the definition of foraging versus enrichment and what it all can encompass. We have a good understanding of why we need to be doing this, and we also have admitted that we probably cut it out of our schedule when we're busy. The first thing that gets cut out of our schedule is likely our animals enrichment and why we shouldn't do that. And now we have some skills on how to do that better and where to start that, have a better starting point if we've struggled with that in the past. So thanks to Helping Wing, they suggested when I was telling them about this, something at the end, and we might change its name, but for now it's called the shopping list. And what it is just kind of some suggestions if you wanted to follow along for the next week or have the materials ready, of different materials that you can get directly through my website. I'll ship them out real quick. I'll see them on there and I'll know it's for this. And be sure to get to you as soon as possible for next week so you can, on the call or directly after, be able to follow along and implement these solutions if you desire. You don't have to. Literally no pressure. It's just a convenience thing. And I thought it was really nice because she was like, that would be very convenient for me. It's just to have it all there, all nice and easy. So this week, because we're working on building complexities, I have some toys that I'm going to be talking about and using next week as examples for you guys to follow along with and implement with your birds. Since this week, hopefully you start implementing some of these ideas here. So the shopping list, either get all, one, none, doesn't matter. I recommend the Busy Bee toy bundle, which gets you 3 toys for a discounted rate on my website. What I can do is show you guys that. Let me go ahead and share my screen just one more time. I'm going to be so obnoxious with this. Sorry if this is annoying to anyone. So go back up on the website. You'll go to Parrot Toys under shop, just like this. So the Busy Bee toy bundle is $25. You get a percentage off for all 3 toys, and you get the I don't know their names. Flower and Bulbs, the Chunky Stacker, and Flower Child. I know their SKU numbers. So this would be a really good one to start out with. Natural Wonders, if that more tickles your fancy, but I really like to recommend the Busy Bee toy bundle because we just talked about some of the gears and some of the cones and stuff. Here's those flowers. So I thought that would be something really good and works with pretty much all size birds. Some birds might have difficulty with some of these wood pieces and stuff like that, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. The next one that I would recommend is Groovy Pods, and right now it's on sale because I have an overstock. So go ahead and get it up, get this while it's still on sale with the overstock. The next one is one of my newer designs is Universal Forager if you're into this, because look, it has the gears, it has the interlocking snowflakes, and it has the cup, it has the millet holders, the large plastic wheels, all in a stainless steel skewer that is reusable. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to bring this up as an example. We talked about it this week, but down here, we have Bottoms Up, which is just that clear acrylic cup with a lid on it. And we can talk about increasing the complexity of this toy specifically. The wheel deal right next to it, great for littler birds. Again, a great place to hold millet, and those gear. Something for birds that need a little bit less intimidating of a toy, or maybe your bird, if your big bird likes foot toys, as well as tumbleweed trouble. So I kind of gave three options for three sizes. There's nothing super big and chunky. If you're like, oh, my bird will chew that in 5 seconds. Sorry, I don't. I can only help you with that this week. But next week, we're going to be looking more into the increasing the complexity of things. And we can even talk about heavy chewers on there and how to keep them entertained because we will be talking about increasing complexity. And that also includes heavy chewers that would look at the, 1 foot long toys or smaller and finish it very quickly. So we'll talk about all of that. Again, we'll be talking about baffle cage stuff, which is for my heavy chewers, a lifesaver. And we'll kind of go from there. If you're watching this the week that it is posted, it is June 25th of 25, then you're going to get an email with all this information and you'll get an email notifying you of the rest of the year's themes and dates. If not, it's already on the website. It's already up there. I've already done my stuff. I'm doing it tomorrow while the birds are getting showered because that's like a 3.5 hour process with all my birds. And so it'll all be up there for everyone to be able to reference and decide when to tune in, the dates, maybe carve out some time, or maybe follow the schedule as your weekly enrichment making time. So I appreciate everyone for being here with me and learning more about how to enrich your birds' lives and wanting to do better because we can all always do better. We're always learning, and we can always continue to do better for our birds. So I will see you guys next week at the next enriching evening. Take care, guys. Bye.